Come on in, guys. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Weather shifted again. We were supposed to not get snow until later today. So given the conditions, the deteriorating conditions in different parts of the region, we again convened a meeting of members of my cabinet plus our key partners. I want to thank all of the leaders of our departments who are here and the others who aren't here because they're doing the work, and the city employees who really have been working around the clock to keep the city safe and working together. I also want to thank our key partners, the Washington State Department of Transportation, Sound Transit, Metro, Seattle Public Schools, who've participated in a number of calls with us at all hours to make sure that we're keeping our city and region as safe as we can. I want to thank the people of Seattle for their patience. We do not know exactly what will happen in the weather, but the latest forecast has continuing cold and freeze, at least through tomorrow, with additional possible very heavy wet snows tonight that could be north of Seattle, could be centered on Seattle, and could miss Seattle. So we are waiting, we're preparing for all of those scenarios, but what we do know is regardless of where the snow comes, it will be cold and it will be freezing, and we are anticipating also to get a number of high winds. We want to make sure a couple things safety-wise that we haven't mentioned as much before, but that are really important. With the winds and the heavy snows, as Deborah will talk to you about City Light in a minute, there is a chance of down power lines. If a power line goes down, please keep your distance and report it immediately. The charged power lines can be very dangerous to people and to properties, and so call 911 if you see a down power line and stay at least 30 feet away. If you haven't done it yet, get your batteries, get your flashlights, get those blankets ready, because if we do have heavy snows and winds, there's a chance we can have power outages in Seattle proper. And given these conditions, it's unclear if that happens, how long it will take to restore. So be prepared just in case. Stay informed. Have a way to know what the weather forecasts are and what's happening in your region. If power goes out, we'll tell you ways that you can find out how to find out. Make sure you keep your area safe and your neighbors safe. So shovel your sidewalk. It's particularly important now that it's dropped down and it's frozen again. Sidewalks can be very treacherous. We've had some slip and falls. We want to make sure we keep those sidewalks clear. So if you are a property owner, you have the responsibility to keep that sidewalk clear. And it's not only the lawful thing to do, it really is the right thing to do. Please don't drive unless you absolutely have to. Last night alone, we had an accident on the 520 bridge. Over 30 vehicles were involved. They had to stop traffic. Bellevue Fire Department couldn't get there. Seattle Fire Department did. They had to turn cars around to go the opposite direction. But we're seeing a number of collisions because the conditions have deteriorated. Check on your neighbors. If you haven't seen people out and about, particularly if they're seniors or if they're disabled in some way or they haven't been well, check in on them, just see how they're doing. Again, get prepared, stay informed, and make sure you know what's happening in your neighborhood, but also in the city, and how to get help. Last, I really want to urge everybody in the city of Seattle, if you see someone who is living outside, we have a range of shelter opportunities available for them, and Jason Johnson will be addressing that. Our navigation team worked from 7 a.m. till midnight yesterday, together with all our outreach workers, trying to bring people inside. We will continue to focus on that today. We will be opening a shelter at the Bitter Lake Community Center so that we can add capacity, because all the forecasts show that there'll be heavier storms there. We are looking at whether we need additional capacity in the downtown core or other places. But really important that if you see someone outside and you want to try to get them inside, dial 211. We can get you a list of the shelters that are open, and we can transport people as well. So please make sure that we try to keep everybody as safe as possible. All of the city government and our partners are here trying to make people as safe as possible. Seattle Public Schools opened 2 hours late today. We had a Seattle Department of Transportation that was looking at the schools that had greater hazards, till midnight last night, helping to make conditions safe for people to go to school today. This is a team effort. It's not just all the people behind me and all the city employees working. It really is everybody who's living and working in this city, looking out for one another and doing the smart thing. I want to thank you for your attention. I really want to thank the media for really getting this information out there. We have seen that people are responding to the press reports and have seen a lot of cooperation. So with that, I'm going to turn over to the Seattle Department of Transportation and Rodney Maxey.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. My name is Rodney Maxey. I'm the Deputy Director of Maintenance Operations for SDOT. Last night we had our night shift had about 70 folks working. We treated all of our main arterials. We also partnered with the Seattle Public Schools and treated approximately 20 approaches to neighborhood schools. That coordination is working very well. The communication between us and King County Metro is working really well so that we can keep the transportation systems up and running. We have divided our operations into multimodal teams. So we have teams that are specifically assigned to keeping transit and road and freight moving forward. We have teams specifically designed to assist with the bike programs and the pedestrian programs and travel and be able to help the community where we see there's a need to surge. We know in this particular forecast, as the mayor said, that the snow probably will hit heavier in the north end. So we will be shifting some of our plows from central and from the south end to the north. However, we will be maintaining plows at the high elevations in West Seattle and High Point and Beacon, and we've received assistance from the Seattle Parks Department and Seattle Public Utilities to put some additional equipment at these higher elevation points. We also put a contractor on call throughout this storm. We have not used the contractor at this point, but should the conditions change and should the weather report pan out, we probably will be activating the contractor in the next 24 hours. So thank you so much for your patience. Please be safe. Please look out for your neighbors and make sure everyone sticks together. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Terry White, King County Metro's Deputy General Manager. And on behalf of Transit, I just want to thank all the riders who have been being patient with us as we are going through this inclement season. Currently, we continue to have our far north and our east regions on snow route. I'm going to want to focus on making sure you know to go to metrowinter.com as changes continue to happen. Given the weather predictions, we are looking at, by PM's commute, putting all routes on snow route. That's all routes on snow route for the PM commute. With that, we will then be pulling additional 60-footers off the road. As you can imagine, our articulators don't do quite as well in snow and ice, and that's going to impact the remainder of the fleet. So what you'll want to do is go to that metrowinter.com to be sure you know what your route status is. Routes will be running. It'll be good for you to pull up any of the various trip planner apps. We also have a text system that you can use. That is 62550, and you can get real-time information on when your buses are coming through. That'll help, because what you don't want you to do is to be standing around in the cold, unknowingly waiting for when the bus may or may not come. So we want you to do those things. Another thing to think about is, as snow begins to fall, snow and ice, if you can, stand at the bottom of the hill. We have stops that are probably halfway through a hill, but as you know, buses, cars, we need momentum. Just to be safe, stand at the bottom of the hill and catch it there. We'll ensure that we do our best to continue to get you home. Our entire fleet, all our folks, we're ready for this. We're ready to work. We'll continue to work with our jurisdictional partners here. And our charge is we want to operate safely for you. And we want you all to be safe as well. So we thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it over to Brian Nielsen from WashDOT.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Mayor Durkin, for the opportunity to communicate with the public and with our meter partners here. I'm Brian Nielsen. I'm the Deputy Regional Administrator for WashDOT's Northwest Region. As with our partners here, safety is our first priority. Our goal is to get our crews to the job, on the job, and home again safe at night, and to keep the traveling public safe as well. We're working closely with first responders, our partners here at the City of Seattle and the county, to do our best as we can to keep the roadways clear and keep the public moving. We have about 50 plows in the Seattle area that are working 24 hours a day at this time, and backup crews as those operators get tired and need a break. So we're plowing, applying anti-ice and de-icer around the region to keep things moving. Our most challenging areas have been the higher elevations and roadways further away from Puget Sound. So routes like 405, 522, I-90, and 520. There are lanes that have snow, compact snow and ice on them. So if you do need to travel, please take the time to understand what the forecast is and what conditions are on the routes that you need to go out on. I'm going to turn the podium over to Deborah Smith with SEL. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Deborah Smith, General Manager of Seattle City Light. And I would like to start by thanking our interpreter, who I understand ran 2 miles to get here today, something like that. So thank you for being here. So like my colleagues, I'm going to focus on safety, yours, ours, and the communities. So when we have power outages, our restoration mantra is make safe, communicate, restore. So we're always going to focus on safety first. So the mayor did a great job. If you come in contact with the down power line, please stay 30 to 35 feet away from the line and immediately call 911. If by chance you've encountered that down power line while you are in your vehicle, still make the call, but stay where you are. That's the single most important thing you can know. We are set up potentially, if things go in a specific certain way, where we could have issues tomorrow. And I also want to know or share with you then our restoration protocol, which is around what can you expect. So some of you know that you are served, perhaps you are in remote or more remote areas of our service territory. Perhaps you're at the end of a radial feed. You probably know who you are. When we have outages, especially if they wind up being significant, we will move our system in. So we will start restoring as many people as possible. So that's generally the order once we have made safe. So prepare yourself, particularly if you know that from history or from folklore that you are in an area where perhaps an outage could extend for a longer period of time. Blankets, batteries, flashlights, and probably the most important thing is to make sure that your devices are fully charged. Our devices today play a really important role for us, and they will help you if you find yourself in without power. Check us out. All you need to do is Google, and you can Google Seattle City Light outage map, and it will pop up, and it will tell you how many people are experiencing outages, how many events, and you'll be able to find your neighborhood and know whether your neighborhood is being impacted or is it just you. So that's information that's available to everyone, and it's only available if your devices are charged. I think I've covered everything I wanted to say. We're geared up, we're prepared, we're ready. This is where we do our best work, and hopefully it will be for nothing. But in the meantime, stay safe. Thank you. I'm going to turn this over to my colleague from SPU.
Good morning, everyone. Jeff Fowler with Seattle Public Utilities. The water and drainage and wastewater operations are operating normally, and they are available to respond to emergencies. The solid waste transfer stations in the south and north end are open and operating. The solid waste collection contractors are on a limited basis. Exactly where they can pick up is based on their safety and the public safety. So if you're a Tuesday customer, please have your carts curbside. If they don't get picked up today, please put them out again tomorrow and leave them out till the end of the day. If they aren't picked up by the end of the day tomorrow, we will pick it up on the following Tuesday. I'm going to turn this over to Jason Johnson with HSD.
Good morning. Jason Johnson with the Human Services Department. Last night, there were approximately 350 individuals sheltered at Seattle Center's Exhibition Hall, as well as through expanded hours at City Hall and at the King County Admin Building lobby. While City Hall shelters and Seattle Exhibition Hall were at capacity last night, no one was, nor will be today, turned away. This emergency shelter is low barrier, all are welcome, and we really want people to take full advantage of this additional shelter resource. We have the capacity to surge shelter to about 600 through the use of our City Hall campus as well as community centers. As the mayor mentioned, we will be opening the Bitter Lake Community Center beginning tonight. That's additional capacity of up to 70 shelter beds. And I just want to thank the Parks Department for their ongoing partnership to make that additional capacity possible. We have warming centers available all day at Seattle Center Armory and other city facilities such as libraries. We also have opened Bertha Knight Landis Room at City Hall as an early morning warming center. The navigation team was conducting outreach yesterday from 7 a.m. until midnight. Outreach will continue today and beyond during this cold weather event. The navigation team has transportation and is ready to not only make referrals to shelter, but can transport individuals to those shelters. Again, we are expanding capacity. We have the ability to serve anyone who comes at the Seattle Center Exhibition Hall. We will be opening at Bitter Lake Community Center. We wanted to open that facility given that most of the weather impacts Seattle's north end. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Harold Scoggin, Seattle Fire Chief. First, I want to thank all the first responders. Our firefighters just locally and throughout the region have been working around the clock to support the communities, as well as all of our other first responders and community partners. Over the last 24 hours, our units have been extremely busy responding to a variety of emergencies. And I want to highlight a few. As the mayor mentioned earlier, we had a pretty large vehicle collision on 520 yesterday evening that involved approximately 30 vehicles. We want to talk about preparedness on that front because if you get stuck in a collision like that, you need to make sure you're prepared for that. Make sure your vehicle is fueled up. Make sure you're prepared to be sitting on the highway in below freezing temperatures. But also the reminder is if you don't have to travel, please don't travel. Also, if you're navigating your way around the city and you're walking, we want to make sure you have the right tools and equipment, shoes, reflective clothing, and things like that. As it becomes darker out, you may be harder to see as you're transitioning around the community. Throughout the last 24 hours, our units have also responded to 3 structure fires. So there's some reminders that come into play there. Electrical. Let's not overload our electrical circuits. Let's not use extension cords if we're using space heaters or portable heaters. Please plug them directly into the wall as our homes are built to absorb the surges if they can. And if you're going to be using portable or space heaters, make sure you don't have any flammable materials within 3 feet of those portable or space heaters. Now, also remind you, check your carbon monoxide detectors, check your smoke detectors, so if something does go sideways, your systems will work inside your home to keep you safe. If you should lose power, it's a reminder, make sure your emergency kits are prepared. Don't use generators or barbecue pits inside of your home. Those are unsafe situations. Have your friends check in on you. You check in on your friends so everyone has a place to go. So just a reminder to everyone, let's be safe over the next 24 hours. Let's make sure our community is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I want to thank the others here. Seattle PD has also been out in every community responding to a range of circumstances to get and make people safe. Also talking to Seattle Public Schools, we forget sometimes that even though our city fared pretty well, that many of the people who work in our small businesses and our schools and in the city of Seattle don't live in the city of Seattle. And it's harder for them to get to their places of work. And so just because the roads are good here, they may not be good where the workers are living. So I want to thank the Seattle Public Schools in particular for continuing to work really closely with us, because we know parents, that first day is fun when the kids stay home from school. That second day is a little tense, and by the third day, you're climbing the walls. So we're doing everything we can, but they too want to make sure they keep their teachers safe, their kids safe, and are doing everything we can. With that, if we have any questions, be happy to take them for me or for any of the people here.
I have a question, Mayor, and it's about the 520 collision, and so WashDOT or Pastor Chief can help with that as well. 30 vehicles, of course, WashDOT's goal is to make sure that the roads are safe. Are you doing anything more? Can you do anything more to make it so that kind of collision does not happen? I mean, I realize we as drivers are not the best, but surely you can't put all the blame on us. So is there more that can be done to make sure that that kind of thing won't happen?
Yep, I'll let Rodney Maxey talk to you about how we're treating Seattle roads, and then WashDOT talk a little bit how we're treating roads. But in these circumstances, I will emphasize it's not a matter of driver blame, but if you don't have to drive, don't. But if you are in your car in this kind of weather, you have got to leave more distance between you and the other cars, and you've got to slow down. Because if you hit the brakes, you will not stop like you think you're going to stop. And so traffic is increased. Rodney, do you want to talk a little bit how they're treating roads, and then I'll let you also talk.
Well, excuse me. We pre-treat all the roads as soon as possible. We try to get them treated 24 hours beforehand, and so does WashDOT. I think the thing to remember is that people in the Northwest are fairly good drivers. What we have in the Northwest that they don't have in many places like Buffalo, New York, is we have hills that they call mountains on the East Coast. And hills are unforgiving because there's gravity. So remember that when you have, after every one of these events, you have a freeze thaw. So even when we treat the road, you have to drive slowly because you can still have black ice form, and you cannot stop quickly. So especially if you're on a bridge, or especially if you're on grade. I think that's really the key. I've seen WashDOT, though. I'll let WashDOT speak, but they've been treating, and their plows have been all over the highway system.
Thank you, Rodney. And I'd echo those comments. We are pre-treating. As I mentioned, we have 50 plows that have both plows and de-icing materials on board, but that's not enough that we can have somebody everywhere all the time. So we're doing our best to clear areas. If we get reports of ice, we do try to prioritize those areas that are treating, but again, drive cautiously, extra distance between you and the car in front of you, and let's try to get everybody home safe.
But I mean, this was 520, so this wasn't like a side street or something, and so that's really part of the reason for it.
Sure. As I mentioned, as we move further away from Puget Sound, 520 is one of those routes that we're challenged with. It's cold. It's actually going to be colder tonight, so our crews are working 520 and all the major routes, but we can't be everywhere.
I have questions for Director Johnson. I was wondering if you could talk about the distribution of shelters downtown. You said that some of the shelters are over capacity, but I'm just wondering, are you directing people to some of the shelters that are under capacity downtown? It seems like there's a distribution.
We will be. So none of the shelters are operating over capacity. We were at capacity serving 170 individuals last night at City Hall. We were under capacity at the King County Admin Building. So tonight, the Salvation Army, who staffs both of those shelters, will be making sure that we're making full use of the shelter at King County Admin Building so that no one is turned away. The shelter at the city at the exhibition hall at Seattle Center, the Salvation Army also staffs that shelter, and they are going to expand staffing today so that they can accommodate the growing number of people who are using that shelter. Again, they have a no turn-away policy, so they are inviting anyone who can come indoors to do that. And tonight we'll have additional staff and materials to accommodate the increased number of people.
And are there more people this year than last year? I've heard that there was an issue with supplies for all the people that were coming.
Yeah, so, we're opening Bitter Lake, as I mentioned, and Bitter Lake, before the storm came, we made sure was fully supplied. We do want to help redistribute materials and get mats and cots, blankets, and other supplies to Exhibition Hall. We'll be doing that today. We feel like we have the materials we need to accommodate the additional capacity. Today will just be some logistical details to move some materials around.
That made me think of one thing.
Sure.
Yesterday, we got a number of questions about if people wanted to make donations, and we've been seeing a lot of generous people stop at shelters, stop at fire stations. If you want to make a donation, please go online to United Way. It is going to be the easiest way for us to get things and resources to distribute. Last year, we were able to work with a number of larger places like Costco that were able to give us in a formal way some socks, some blankets, and the like. Well, that's better if it's central. So again, if you're making contributions, thank you very much. But the best way to help people is, number one, check on the neighbor and the people around you. Number two, stay safe yourself. And number three, if you have the capacity to do more and want to donate, please go online to United Way. One more question if there's other questions. Here, go ahead. Well, there'll be two. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question for Brian with Watchdog. I was wondering, was the 523,
Go to the mic, please.
was it pre-treated yesterday?
I honestly am not fully informed of every place that we pre-treat. For instance, I'm not sure if we treat the bridge over the water or what materials we use, but we have all of our crews on site treating the roadways where necessary and appropriate.
Well, after the collision, are you prioritizing bridges? You know that bridges breathe faster than roads, and you said some of the areas were really hard to get to. Are you guys prioritizing that tonight in terms of people falling down?
Bridges and approaches to bridges are an area that we normally prioritize, yes. And we will be out all day today and this evening addressing issues as they arise.
Between the 5 today,
We will have crews on 520 today, yes.
Last question. I have another question. It's about the homeless situation, if I may. And so what I've seen, I know that you have capacity, you have increased capacity. First, how do you get people to go? If they don't want to go, are they allowed to stay out in the elements?
So I think we go on a range of experience. Last year we saw, as we've seen always, that it takes multiple times connecting with people for them to trust and come inside. But we saw greater uptake last year, the second or third day of our snowstorm, where people realized that it was no longer capable for them to stay. And they got to the shelters that we stood up. And then we had actually a great deal of success in having those people themselves then sometimes with themselves go out with a navigation team to encampment saying, hey, you should come inside. It's a good place, it's safe. And so it is a constant engagement that we have to do with people living outside. And for those people who are living outside, we also trying to make sure as we bring them inside, we learned lessons last year to make sure we ask them, do you have medications? Do you have things you need to bring? And so we obviously can't force people to come inside, but what we can do is make sure that we have enough spaces and we have proactive enough outreach that we really are trying to get people safe and warm. And it's not just happening here. If you've watched the various news channels up and down the I-5 corridor in all the small towns, you're seeing that churches and others are opening warming centers. They're out actually actively engaging because people experiencing homelessness don't stop at the city borders. As we know, it is the number one issue throughout the state. It's important in this region. We will continue to do all we can to make sure that people are safe, bring them inside, have food, have shelter, have anything they need for medical conditions. We have seen the Seattle Police Department patrol officers, if they see someone, they're going to engage with them to try to get them inside. Our firefighters are doing that. Our Seattle Public Utilities, our parks, all the city workers who are out there have the same goal in mind. Keep everyone in the city of Seattle and the region safe. And the number one thing we can do to do that is if all the people watching or listening to your broadcasts do that and help us, we're going to get through these next 2 days and hopefully we won't get another storm this year. Thank you very much.
People got inside from the navigation.
If you guys have follow-up questions, let's do that after. Thank you.
Guys.